June 4th, 1942. Early morning mist hangs over the turquoise waters of the Midway Atoll. The sun has not yet fully risen, but the roar of aircraft engines punctuates the stillness, echoing across the small island airstrips. On the USS Yorktown, moored tenuously in the Pacific, Ensign Robert Gaines leans against the railing, squinting at the horizon. His knuckles whiten around the steel bar as he watches the first columns of Japanese bombers approaching. Somewhere beyond the rising sun, the Imperial Japanese Navy is gathering force, a fleet of carriers, battleships, and cruisers ready to strike at what they think is an exposed American outpost. The deck vibrates underfoot as Yorktown's air group prepares for launch. Wildcats roar off the flight deck, disappearing into the morning haze, while SBD Dauntless dive bombers check their altimeters, poised for combat. The crew moves with mechanical precision, a rhythm honed by months at sea, yet tension hangs like a second skin. Every sailor senses the magnitude of the confrontation about to unfold, the kind that will shape the Pacific War. At 0930 hours, the first bombs strike. Yorktown shudders violently as a 250-kilogram bomb tears through the aft hangar deck, shattering bulkheads and setting a mess of aviation fuel ablaze. Smoke and fire rise in thick black pillars that blot out the early sunlight. Men scream, alarms blare, and water hoses hiss across the decks. Lieutenant Commander Ernest Kiefer, fire control officer, shouts orders, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Damage control teams, aft compartments, flood the magazines. Despite immediate efforts, the carrier suffers repeated hits. A second bomb, closer to the bridge, rocks the hull, sending officers and sailors sprawling. Ensign Gaines clings to a bulkhead as Yorktown lists slightly to port. Below decks, fire crews scramble through smoke-choked corridors, battling infernos that threaten to reach the aviation gasoline stored near the hangar. Every second stretches into an eternity. The rhythm of death and survival alternates in heartbeats. By mid-afternoon, the damage is catastrophic, but not fatal. Yorktown is dead in the water, her engines silent, her steering compromised. Captain Elliot Buckmaster, standing near the bridge, surveys the destruction with a grim face. Reports flood in, power systems failing, hull integrity threatened, radar arrays destroyed. The carrier is sinking under the weight of her wounds, a leviathan brought low by precision strikes. Yet, amid despair, a glimmer of hope emerges. Messages from Pearl Harbor hint at possible emergency repairs. If Yorktown can be patched, even partially, she might sail again. The notion seems audacious, bordering on impossible. No carrier has ever been resurrected in such a short time from near catastrophic damage. But the Navy's chief shipyard engineer, Captain Homer L. Ferguson, does not see impossibility, only challenge. Ferguson, a man of meticulous habit and razor-sharp intellect, has overseen some of the Navy's most complex vessel constructions. Now, he faces a task that could alter the course of the battle, make Yorktown seaworthy again, and fast. Meanwhile, Japanese reconnaissance aircraft circle overhead. From the perspective of Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, the American fleet seems shattered. He radios his commanders, expecting reports of a sunken Yorktown. Instead, fragments of inaccurate intelligence suggest the carrier might still be afloat. Nagumo's officers exchange glances, disbelief flickering across their faces. Their plan had assumed Yorktown's permanent elimination. The sudden uncertainty injects tension into the Imperial Japanese Navy's operational calculus. Back at Pearl Harbor, Ferguson's preparations begin immediately. Orders cascade through the naval yard. Yorktown damage assessment teams assemble immediately, prioritize propulsion, hull integrity, and aviation facilities. Time is critical. Engineers, welders, electricians, and shipwrights surge into motion. They operate with the intensity of men who know the Pacific Theater will wait for no one. Using portable cranes, temporary shoring, and reinforced steel plates, they plan to stabilize Yorktown's hull. Any miscalculation could compromise the ship further, turning a daring resurrection into a final tragedy. The human element dominates every calculation. Sailors who survived the bombing, some lightly injured, others deeply scarred, offer first-hand accounts to the engineers. They describe which compartments flooded, which bulkheads cracked, and where fires raged the longest. Ferguson studies these reports with a hawk-like eye, cross-referencing ship schematics and prior battle damage cases. The engineers debate methods. Should they use welding or bolted steel patches? Which pumps will restore bilge systems fastest? Every decision balances speed against structural safety. Night falls over Pearl Harbor, but there is no rest. Bright floodlights illuminate Yorktown's damaged superstructure as crews work in relays. The clang of hammers, hiss of welding torches, and splashes from water pumps create a mechanical symphony. Ferguson walks the decks like a conductor, issuing orders, checking progress, and instilling calm in the sailors who will soon man the vessel again. The impossible timeline, 48 hours, looms over every movement, yet morale remains stubbornly high. Men joke through exhaustion, exchange words of encouragement, and push through blisters and fatigue. Every hour counts. By the early hours of June 6th, the first major milestones are achieved. Hull breaches have been reinforced, temporary electrical systems rerouted, pumps stabilize flooded compartments. Propulsion shafts, previously mangled by bomb blasts, are patched enough to allow movement. Engineers test the repaired engines. Low hums transform into a steady rumble as Yorktown regains a heartbeat. Ferguson nods grimly, fully aware that even the smallest oversight could doom the operation. Meanwhile, intelligence reports filtered through command channels. Nagumo still believes Yorktown is crippled, possibly sinking. Japanese reconnaissance planes skim the horizon but find nothing conclusive. The element of surprise, though unintended, now lies with the Americans. If Ferguson's team succeeds, Yorktown will re-enter the fight not as a fragile relic, but as a fully operational carrier, a symbol of American ingenuity and resolve. As dawn approaches on June 6th, the final assessments are underway. Deck crews test flight operations using a handful of scout aircraft. Arresting wires hold under stress. Elevators transport planes reliably. Catapults ready to launch. Yorktown, battered but breathing, is almost ready to sail. Ferguson addresses the crew. "Gentlemen, we've beaten the odds, but the fight isn't over. Remember, she belongs to the Navy, but you are her heart. Keep her alive." The words resonate, a mix of command and reassurance echoing across the steel corridors. The stage is set. In less than 48 hours, a ship once written off as lost will defy expectations and return to Midway, poised to turn the tide. The men of Yorktown and the engineers of Pearl Harbor have bridged the gap between despair and triumph, crafting a story of speed, skill, and sheer determination. The Pacific waits, unaware that the hunter they presumed slain is about to strike once more. June 5th, 1942. Pearl Harbor hums with a frenetic energy unlike any day in its storied history. The harbor itself seems to hold its breath, its waters glittering under early morning light as ships rock gently against their moorings. On the docks, sparks fly from welding torches like fireflies caught in a storm. Men in oil-streaked coveralls hustle across the decks, each carrying the weight of urgency. Time is no longer measured in hours. It is measured in heartbeats, in every shudder of steel, every hiss of steam escaping from pressurized lines. Captain Homer L. Ferguson strides along the deck of the USS Yorktown, his eyes scanning every scar, dent, and ruptured bulkhead with the precision of a surgeon. Around him, his crew, engineers, shipwrights, and skilled laborers, operate like a single organism, moving seamlessly between tasks. Temporary shoring braces crack decks, and steel plates, hot from welding, seal the yawning wounds left by Japanese bombs. Flooded compartments, which had once threatened to drag the mighty carrier beneath the waves, are now pumped dry, their water gurgling into the harbor as portable pumps strain under the load. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Samuel "Sam" Donovan wipes soot from his brow and surveys the repaired propulsion shafts. He mutters under his breath, "Come on, old girl, show me you can still dance." The engines, battered and bent, roar to life, shaking the deck above with renewed vigor. Engineers check gauges and voltages as the hum spreads through the hull. Ferguson allows himself a brief nod of satisfaction, though he knows the true test, the sea, is still to come. Above decks, the flight deck is a scene of organized chaos. Planes are rolled into position, repaired and refueled where possible, their wings lined with meticulous care. Deck crews rehearse the launch sequence with a handful of SBD Dauntless dive bombers. Arresting wires are tested under tension. Catapults are greased and calibrated. Elevators are cycled up and down repeatedly. Every movement is scrutinized. One misstep, one malfunction, could endanger lives and ruin the delicate timing of Yorktown's return to Midway. Amid this whirlwind, Ferguson's presence is magnetic. He stops at each crew group, listens, advises, and corrects. His commands are crisp, his knowledge encyclopedic. When a young welder hesitates over a particularly jagged rupture in the hull, Ferguson crouches beside him and says, "The metal's weak here. Reinforce it like this, and she'll take the next hit without flinching." His confidence is infectious. Doubt has no place in this operation. The men feed off his calm determination, their exhaustion tempered by the unyielding pace of necessity. The night falls again over Pearl Harbor, but the work does not stop. Portable searchlights illuminate the decks as the hum of generators competes with the hiss of welding torches. Sparks jump like fire across the steel, accompanied by the rhythm of hammers and the low murmur of men communicating over distance. The air smells of hot metal, burning insulation, and seawater. Rain begins to drizzle lightly, adding a sheen to the decks and intensifying the challenge. Crews press on regardless, every man committed to the impossible timeline. Below decks, damage control teams crawl through narrow corridors that once brimmed with smoke and flame. They inspect bulkheads for hidden cracks, tighten loose bolts, and rig temporary electrical circuits. Their hands are scraped and raw, but the work never ceases. Ferguson moves among them, checking measurements and pressure readings. "Every compartment counts," he reminds them. "This ship will live or die on the sum of every single repair we make tonight." By early morning, June 6th, progress has been extraordinary. Hull breaches have been patched with a combination of welded steel and reinforced temporary plates. Flooded compartments are stabilized. Generators supply enough power to run critical systems, including radar, communications, and pumps. Propulsion shafts are operational, capable of propelling the carrier at a reduced speed. Ferguson allows a rare smile, but immediately reminds his men, "We're not finished. She still has to sail." The most challenging task remains the flight deck. Planes must take off from a surface that is partially damaged and partially reinforced. Deck crews test the arrested landings and catapult launches repeatedly, adjusting cables and timing mechanisms. Lieutenant Commander John Anderson oversees this operation, shouting instructions over the roar of engines and the hiss of steam. "Hold her steady. Give me 2 more feet of tension on that wire. Ready? Launch." A Dauntless rolls down the deck and lifts into the early sunlight, the flight crew breathing a sigh of relief as the aircraft becomes airborne without incident. News of the progress filters up through the chain of command. In Washington, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz receives updates in rapid succession. Each report emphasizes the extraordinary speed of repair, the skill of Ferguson's team, and the determination of the sailors who survived Yorktown's initial damage. Nimitz leans back, absorbing the information. A rare smile crosses his face. "If she sails again, she will remind the enemy that nothing American dies easily," he murmurs. Meanwhile, Japanese intelligence continues to report conflicting observations. Nagumo remains confident Yorktown is out of commission, but sporadic sightings of the carrier's silhouette in Pearl Harbor create unease. In Tokyo, senior commanders debate the accuracy of these reports. The assumption that the United States has permanently lost the carrier is suddenly questioned, and with it, strategic plans must be reconsidered. Every hour that Yorktown remains on the docks, readying herself, multiplies uncertainty in the Japanese high command. By mid-afternoon on June 6th, 48 hours after her near-catastrophic damage, USS Yorktown is ready to depart. Ferguson inspects the final repairs one last time. His team is bruised, exhausted, and exhilarated. They have beaten what seemed impossible, resurrecting a vessel written off as lost. Sailors and engineers alike line the deck, watching as the carrier's engines rumble to life, the hull vibrating with renewed strength. Ferguson's voice carries over the comms. All stations, prepare to weigh anchor. Let's show them what determination can do. With a roar that echoes across Pearl Harbor, Yorktown slowly moves away from the dock. Her flight deck, though scarred, gleams under the afternoon sun. Sailors cheer quietly, a mix of relief and reverence. Ferguson watches, heart steady but proud, knowing that every weld, every bolt, every painstaking repair has brought the ship back from the brink. Soon she will sail into the Pacific, returning to Midway and confronting the very forces that thought her gone forever. June 6, 1942. The Pacific sun beats down on the decks of USS Yorktown as she cuts through the glittering waters of Pearl Harbor. The hum of her engines, once silenced by Japanese bombs, now resonates with renewed power. Sailors, weary but exhilarated, move in tight formation, checking equipment, running final diagnostics, and readying the carrier for the long voyage back to the front. The horizon stretches endlessly, a shimmering line that promises both danger and opportunity. Captain Elliot Buckmaster stands on the bridge, binoculars pressed to his eyes. Every detail matters: the sea state, the wind direction, the formation of accompanying destroyers. Around him, the crew moves like a single organism, trained to respond instantly to commands. Buckmaster's voice cuts through the tension. All stations, report readiness. Engineering, status? Chief Engineer Donovan replies without hesitation. Propulsion steady. All systems operational. Hull secure. Wait. Communications, radar, and weapon systems have been brought to minimum operational capacity, enough to defend the ship and support aircraft operations. As Yorktown sails toward Midway, word spreads quickly through the American fleet. Admiral Nimitz receives the news. The carrier thought lost is not only afloat but operational. The impact on morale cannot be overstated. Sailors aboard other vessels exchange incredulous glances. Rumors of Yorktown's resurrection spread like wildfire, transforming despair into determination. The knowledge that the Americans could bring a near-destroyed carrier back into battle sends ripples of anxiety through the Japanese high command. The journey across open water is tense. Every radar blip, every cloud on the horizon is scrutinized for potential threats. Yorktown's crew knows they are sailing into the jaws of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Air cover from scout planes is dispatched cautiously, probing for enemy movements. The carrier's decks are alive with activity. Pilots check their planes, ordnance crews reload weapons, and deckhands secure loose gear against the rolling motion of the ship. The atmosphere is electric, a blend of anticipation, fear, and unshakable resolve. On board, Captain Ferguson continues his oversight, moving between the engineering spaces and the bridge, ensuring that nothing is overlooked. His presence is both reassuring and commanding. At one point, a young engineer points out a minor leak near a patched bulkhead. Ferguson kneels beside him, inspecting the repair. "It's holding under pressure," he says. "Keep monitoring, but don't let it distract you. We've survived worse." His confidence bolsters the crew, reminding them that even in the midst of danger, preparation and vigilance can tip the scales. Meanwhile, Japanese reconnaissance struggles to confirm Yorktown's condition. Observers report seeing movement in Pearl Harbor but cannot definitively identify the carrier's departure. Admiral Nagumo assumes the Americans are too weakened to mount another offensive. The miscalculation will prove costly. The return of Yorktown to Midway introduces an element of unpredictability into the Japanese strategy, forcing Nagumo to reconsider strike plans and divert attention to defense rather than offense. By June 7th, the first American aircraft launched from Midway begin coordinated sweeps over the surrounding waters. Wildcats and Dauntless dive bombers from Yorktown and other carriers skim the waves, scanning for Japanese forces. Deck operations on Yorktown are in full swing. Planes are launched, recovered, refueled, and rearmed at a pace that astonishes even seasoned veterans. Arresting wires snap taut under the weight of returning aircraft. Catapults hurl planes skyward with precision. The carrier, once crippled, now operates with remarkable efficiency, a testament to the work done at Pearl Harbor. As Yorktown approaches Midway, the tension reaches its peak. Japanese carriers are in striking distance, their decks crowded with aircraft poised to attack. Yet they are unaware of the American force they face. On board Yorktown, pilots ready themselves. Lieutenant Commander John Anderson briefs his squadron. You know the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, and remember, she's alive because we refuse to quit. Let's make sure the enemy regrets underestimating us. The squadron nods, eyes steely, hands gripping throttles, hearts pounding. The first waves of attack commence. Yorktown's aircraft surge into the sky, diving toward enemy ships with practiced precision. Japanese crews, expecting a weakened or absent carrier, are stunned. Bombs and torpedoes strike with devastating effect. Amid the chaos, Yorktown's decks maintain rhythm. Planes land, refuel, rearm, and relaunch, all under the guidance of men who had resurrected the ship less than 48 hours earlier. Ferguson and Buckmaster watch from the bridge, every sensor and radio call feeding them critical data. They are acutely aware of the fragility beneath the might. A single misfire or hit could undo all that has been achieved. The battle rages across the Pacific sky. Smoke curls from Japanese ships as bombs find their marks. Yorktown's aircraft coordinate with other carriers' squadrons, creating a network of strikes that confounds the enemy. Japanese pilots, expecting an easy victory, are met with a fully operational, battle-ready carrier that had been presumed sunk. Shock and disbelief ripple through their ranks. For those in command, the realization dawns that the Americans have not only survived, but are striking back with renewed ferocity. Back on Yorktown, damage control teams remain alert. Even as planes launch and recover, the crew monitors hull integrity, engine performance, and ammunition stores. The ship is alive in a way that transcends steel and machinery. It pulses with human determination. Ferguson moves among the teams, offering guidance and encouragement. Keep her steady. Every wire, every pump, every bolt matters, he reminds them. The carrier, once a casualty, has become a symbol of ingenuity, of resilience, of the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to surrender. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the first reports come in. Japanese ships damaged, aircraft destroyed, and enemy morale shaken. Yorktown's return has altered the battle's dynamics, tipping the scales in favor of the Americans. In Tokyo, Nagumo faces the grim reality. A ship he thought permanently lost is now a formidable force in his path. The ripple effects of Pearl Harbor's miracle are undeniable. The 48-hour resurrection of Yorktown has created both a tactical advantage and a psychological shockwave. Yorktown continues her operations throughout the day, coordinating strikes, recovering aircraft, and maintaining her newfound momentum. Ferguson, standing on the deck, watches the Pacific horizon. The carrier, battered but alive, moves with a grace that belies the recent trauma. Around him, sailors and pilots move with purpose, their faces set, their resolve unwavering. They are the beating heart of a ship that has returned from the edge of oblivion to redefine the course of history. June 7th, 1942. Midway Atoll hovers on the edge of dawn, the horizon tinged with gold and crimson. The Pacific is alive with movement, the roar of aircraft engines, the slap of waves against the hull, the faint hiss of Yorktown's repaired machinery. From the bridge, Captain Buckmaster scans the waters through binoculars. Every ship, every cloud, every fleeting shadow on the sea could signal danger or opportunity. The air is thick with anticipation, the kind that only a battle of destiny can summon. On board, Yorktown's deck is a symphony of motion. Deck crews sprint to meet returning SBD Dauntless dive bombers, their wheels screaming against the flight deck as arresting wires absorb the shock. Catapults hurl fresh aircraft skyward, launching strikes against enemy formations spotted miles away. Pilots, some still trembling from previous sorties, climb into cockpits with single-minded focus. Lieutenant Commander John Anderson addresses his men before takeoff. Remember, we were told she was lost. We were told nothing could bring her back. Now, we're here to prove them wrong. Keep your eyes sharp and trust your carrier. She's alive because of you. From the Japanese perspective, the sight of Yorktown's planes soaring overhead is incomprehensible. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, stationed on the flagship Akagi, watches reports of the carrier thought destroyed, participating fully in the battle. Eyes widen behind pince-nez spectacles. That ship, it should be sunk, he mutters. His aides exchange uneasy glances. The intelligence that once seemed reliable now fuels doubt. Pilots who had expected a weakened or absent Yorktown are suddenly faced with coordinated, precise strikes from a fully operational American carrier. Shock ripples through the ranks. In the sky, Yorktown's aircraft execute meticulously planned dives and torpedo runs. Smoke trails from Japanese vessels, splintered steel glinting in the rising sun as bombs find their marks. Coordination with the other American carriers, Enterprise and Hornet, is seamless. Signals flash across the radio, a controlled chaos that belies the intensity of the moment. Observers on the decks watch in tense silence, knowing each maneuver, each sortie, could determine the outcome of not just a battle, but the course of the Pacific War itself. Below decks, Ferguson moves among the engineering teams, now seasoned by 48 hours of relentless repair work. Bilge pumps hiss, engines hum, and generators maintain steady power. Damage control teams remain vigilant, scanning for minor leaks or stress fractures that could escalate. Every measurement, every reading is cross-checked. Ferguson pauses beside a newly reinforced bulkhead, patting it lightly. "She's holding," he says. The word resonates, a quiet affirmation that the impossible has been achieved. As the battle intensifies, Yorktown's flight deck becomes a hub of human determination. Pilots land amid smoke and spray, barely slowing before the deck crews refuel, reload, and rearm for the next strike. Lieutenant Anderson watches a dauntless land, the arresting wire snapping taut, then immediately signals the catapult crew. Ready her for the next run. The rhythm is relentless. Launch, strike, return, refuel, relaunch. Each cycle is a testament to precision, speed, and trust between man and machine. Japanese forces respond with bewilderment. Carrier decks scramble to launch fighters and intercept attacks, but confusion dominates their efforts. Communications lag, and assumptions about American strength crumble in real time. Nagumo orders evasive maneuvers, but it is too late. The Americans have seized the initiative. The psychological shock of facing a carrier they believed permanently lost weighs heavily on Japanese commanders, undercutting confidence and slowing decision-making. Below the flight deck, sailors share fleeting glances, their expressions a mix of awe and relief. Boatswain's mates shout orders over the roar of engines, moving aircraft and supplies with precision born of experience and urgency. Each man understands that Yorktown's survival is not just a personal victory. It is a strategic leverage point, a demonstration that American resilience can defy expectation and alter the momentum of war. Midway itself trembles under the weight of the unfolding engagement. The air above the atoll is filled with tracer fire, the metallic echo of anti-aircraft guns, and the distant thrum of torpedoes striking water. Pilots communicate with rapid-fire brevity, relaying enemy positions and battle damage. Every strike from Yorktown's air group chips away at Japanese confidence and material strength. Smoke from burning ships stretches like dark fingers across the ocean, a visual testament to the precision and speed of the carrier's air operations. Captain Buckmaster, standing tall on the bridge, feels the subtle pulse of victory mingled with exhaustion. His orders are crisp, deliberate. Maintain station, cover the atoll, support the aircraft, watch every angle. Around him, the crew responds with the fluidity of a living organism, each action reinforcing the next. The carrier moves with renewed purpose, her hull vibrating with the combined energy of steel, engines, and human will. By afternoon, reports confirm the impact of Yorktown's return. Japanese carriers are damaged, aircraft destroyed, and their strategic options limited. The Americans, despite being outnumbered, have gained an advantage that would not have existed if Yorktown had remained crippled. The psychological and operational effects converge. Fear and uncertainty now accompany the Japanese fleet, while the Americans gain both confidence and momentum. As sunset approaches, Yorktown remains operational and poised for continued strikes. Ferguson walks the deck, observing the crew as they finish refueling and repairing aircraft. The men, exhausted but determined, understand the gravity of their achievement. A ship once thought irretrievably lost now dominates the waters near Midway, a living testament to ingenuity, courage, and the relentless refusal to accept defeat. The Pacific watches silently as Yorktown, restored and renewed, prepares to continue the fight. The miracle at Pearl Harbor, completed in 48 hours of relentless repair work, has not only returned a carrier to battle but has rewritten the assumptions of friend and foe alike. The ship's steel heart beats once more, powered by human hands, minds, and unwavering resolve. June 7th, late afternoon. The Pacific horizon glows with the fading light of a sun sinking into the endless blue. Smoke curls from Japanese ships like dark ribbons, their silhouettes jagged against the dying light. Yorktown, her deck still bustling with activity, slices through the waves with a precision that belies her recent near destruction. The ship's engines, repaired and reinforced, hum steadily, a deep rhythm of defiance and resilience. Every man on board knows that they are witnessing not just a battle, but history itself. From the bridge, Captain Buckmaster observes the unfolding chaos with measured calm. Reports flood in from radar and scouting planes, enemy carriers detected to the northeast, cruisers repositioning, and scattered destroyers attempting to form a defensive perimeter. Japanese pilots, confused by the sudden reappearance of Yorktown, struggle to regroup. Their attacks are fragmented, coordination faltering under the weight of disbelief and urgency. The Americans, now with Yorktown fully operational, seize the initiative in a way that no one could have anticipated 48 hours earlier. On the flight deck, Lieutenant Commander John Anderson supervises sortie after sortie. Wildcats streak into the sky, dauntless dive bombers spiral toward targets, and torpedo planes roar from the catapults, each man fully aware of the stakes. The rhythm is relentless, almost hypnotic. Launch, strike, return, refuel, rearm, relaunch. Deck crews move with mechanical precision, sweat streaking faces but no hint of hesitation in their motions. Each aircraft that leaves the deck carries with it a fragment of Yorktown's miraculous rebirth. Meanwhile, below decks, Ferguson continues his rounds. Every engine, every pump, every emergency system is monitored with exacting care. He pauses at the edge of a newly reinforced bulkhead, placing a hand upon cold steel. "Hold fast," he mutters, a silent prayer and affirmation intertwined. Damage control teams, still vigilant, check compartments, bilges, and electrical circuits. Even a small failure could cascade into catastrophe, but the crew's skill and experience ensure that Yorktown remains unbroken. Japanese forces, realizing the scale of their miscalculation, mount more aggressive attacks. Torpedo bombers dive toward Yorktown, their engines screaming through the smoky air. Anti-aircraft gunners swivel and fire, tracer rounds stitching ribbons of light through the sky. Explosions ripple across the water as near misses shatter waves and spray. Yorktown rocks under the force of attacks, but her reinforced hull and vigilant crew absorb the shocks. Each defensive maneuver is executed with precision, a dance of steel and fire choreographed under pressure. On the bridge, Buckmaster issues commands with unwavering focus. All hands maintain course, elevators ready, arresting wires set, launch-ready aircraft immediately. Our pilots respond instantly, rolling planes onto catapults, engines screaming as they leap skyward into the dying sun. The sight is awe-inspiring. A ship once written off as lost now dominates the battlefield, orchestrating a symphony of destruction and resilience. As the evening progresses, the impact of Yorktown's return becomes undeniable. Reports confirm multiple enemy carriers hit, aircraft destroyed, and Japanese morale fractured. The Americans, though still outnumbered, hold the advantage in both firepower and confidence. The Pacific has shifted. Yorktown's resurrection in just 48 hours has turned what seemed a desperate situation into an opportunity for decisive action. Ferguson, walking among the crews, allows himself a moment to reflect. The impossible has been achieved. A ship once nearly sunk now sails and fights as if unscathed. He watches sailors repair landing gear, refuel planes, and adjust catapults, their hands steady, their resolve unwavering. The carrier is alive not merely through steel and machinery, but through the unyielding will of the men who refuse to accept defeat. Night falls over Midway, the battle subsiding as darkness cloaks the ocean. Yorktown, scarred but undefeated, continues to patrol the area, ready for further engagement. The Japanese, aware now of the full extent of their miscalculation, begin to withdraw and regroup. The psychological blow inflicted by facing a supposedly destroyed carrier cannot be overstated. The element of surprise, combined with American ingenuity, has shifted the momentum in ways that will echo through subsequent naval operations in the Pacific. Captain Buckmaster stands on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The men around him, exhausted yet vigilant, share silent nods of understanding. Every bolt welded, every pump repaired, every aircraft launched represents a triumph of human ingenuity over adversity. Ferguson joins him, surveying the ship's operational status. "She's done her part," he says quietly. "Now it's up to the men in the air and on the decks to finish the fight." As dawn approaches on June 8th, Yorktown continues to project power, her aircraft launching reconnaissance and strike missions. The carrier's presence has altered Japanese strategy, forced defensive reallocations, and inspired her crew with a profound sense of achievement. In just 48 hours, a ship that should have been lost has returned, reshaping the battlefield and leaving an indelible mark on history. The story of USS Yorktown's rapid resurrection spreads quickly throughout the Pacific Fleet. Sailors aboard other ships tell tales of the miraculous repair work at Pearl Harbor, of Captain Ferguson's unrelenting leadership, and of the courage of men who refused to surrender to circumstance. Yorktown becomes more than a vessel. She becomes a symbol of American determination, ingenuity, and the unbreakable spirit of those who fight not just for victory, but for survival against all odds. June 8, 1942. The Pacific morning is calm, deceptively serene after the chaos of battle. USS Yorktown sails steadily, her decks quiet except for the occasional hum of machinery and the shuffling of sailors maintaining readiness. The scars of war are visible, patched bulkheads, scorched flight decks, and hasty welds that speak to the intensity of the work done just days prior. Yet the carrier's movements are purposeful, almost defiant, a testament to the skill and determination that brought her back from near destruction. Captain Buckmaster stands on the bridge, binoculars in hand, watching the horizon. The vast expanse of water offers no comfort. Enemy ships could emerge from any direction, but he feels a rare sense of pride. Yorktown is alive, operational, and ready to fight. Around him, sailors adjust equipment, maintain defensive positions, and ready aircraft for patrols. There is a quiet confidence now, a shared understanding that they have been part of something extraordinary. Below decks, Captain Homer L. Ferguson makes his rounds one final time. The repaired engines hum smoothly. Temporary electrical systems are holding. Bilge pumps continue to circulate water efficiently. Ferguson inspects the welded patches along the hull, noting the ingenuity and precision of the crew's work. "She's holding," he murmurs, almost to himself, and for the first time in 2 days allows a small, satisfied smile. The impossible has been accomplished. A massive carrier, battered to the brink, now moves across the Pacific as if unscathed. Yorktown's aircraft resume regular sorties, providing reconnaissance and striking Japanese positions when possible. Pilots, aware of the peril they have faced and the narrow margin by which their carrier survived, move with heightened precision. Lieutenant Commander John Anderson coordinates flight operations from the deck, shouting commands over the roar of engines. The tempo of launches and recoveries is relentless, yet flawless, a reflection of both discipline and the extraordinary circumstances that forged this team. News of Yorktown's return reaches the wider fleet and the American command in Washington. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz receives detailed reports of the miraculous repair work and the carrier's operational success. In his office, he leans back in his chair, letting the information settle. "In 48 hours, they've done what many said was impossible," he remarks quietly. They've turned a loss into a tactical advantage and a near defeat into inspiration. The story of Yorktown's resurrection quickly becomes legend, a case study in ingenuity, leadership, and courage under pressure. For the Japanese commanders, the impact is devastating. Admiral Nagumo, confronted with reports of Yorktown's operational status, realizes the magnitude of their miscalculation. A ship they had presumed destroyed is not only afloat but striking back with precision. The psychological blow is immense, affecting strategy, coordination, and morale. Japanese pilots speak in hushed tones of the miracle carrier that returned from the dead, a symbol of the unyielding determination of the American forces they face. On board Yorktown, the crew reflects on their extraordinary accomplishment. Sailors and engineers share quiet conversations about the chaos, the repairs, and the perilous journey back to Midway. There is exhaustion, certainly, but also a profound sense of unity and achievement. Every man understands that they were part of something far larger than themselves, a historic event that demonstrates the power of human ingenuity and perseverance in the crucible of war. Captain Buckmaster and Ferguson confer on the bridge, looking out over the calm waters. "We've done more than repair a ship," Buckmaster says. "We've reminded the world, and our enemies, what it means to fight." Ferguson nods, understanding that the success of Yorktown is as much about human will as it is about steel and rivets. "And we've done it in 48 hours, he replies. 48 hours that changed the course of a battle, maybe a war. The sun begins to set over the Pacific, casting golden light over the deck. Yorktown's silhouette is proud and resolute against the glowing sky. The carrier, once thought lost, sails on with a crew bonded by courage, ingenuity, and the relentless refusal to accept defeat. Every rivet, every weld, every repaired system stands as a testament to what can be achieved under impossible circumstances. The legacy of USS Yorktown endures far beyond Midway. The rapid, audacious repairs at Pearl Harbor become a symbol of American resilience, ingenuity, and the human capacity to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Ferguson's leadership, the skill of the shipyard crews, and the courage of the sailors who manned the carrier combine into a story that inspires generations, proof that even in the darkest hours of war, determination and skill can turn disaster into triumph. As night falls completely, Yorktown continues her patrols near Midway, ready for whatever challenges may come. She moves with quiet authority, a living monument to human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. The battle may continue, but the story of her resurrection has already entered history, a tale of steel, fire, and the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to surrender.